Well, we have the second of 3 midday 3 p.m. shows in the middle of this week as the Sixers get some much-needed break during the NBA Cup, and that gives us a chance to really take stock of where they sit. Welcome to PHLY Sixers show, coming to you live from the Xfinity Lounge. We are presented, as always, by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And never ordinary is probably a good phrase for today's show. Although I think for the most part,
Sixers in general, they are never
kind
ordinary.
of, well, I mean, play-wise, they've been kind of ordinary, or at least middle of the pack in almost every metric you could come up with. But we will be going up and down the roster, including some people that aren't on the actual active roster who manage the roster in various different ways, handing out some grades and trying to take stock of where the team stands. As always, I'm joined by, well, not as always, because starting tomorrow, you will not be joining me, but I am joined by Kyle Neubeck once again. Devon does have the day off. He will be back here when we meet you guys again on Thursday. I guess a natural place to start this conversation off, in part because he is the one person that we will give an unqualified success for, or at least I'm assuming. We haven't seen each other's grades. I'm assuming Kyle probably has a pretty strong grade here for one Tyrese Maxey, but we'll find out here in a minute. I think he is the natural place to start off, and I think Bree, super producer Bree, has some graphics here for us. So let's get into Tyrese Maxey. Kyle, we both had an A. Is that what that means? Okay.
Firm A from the two of us.
The only real debate was why not a plus?
Well, some grading systems, they don't even have a plus for A's in general. So I kind of went with that vibe. I don't know that I would give him an A plus, but that'd really be splitting hairs with him. The point here is that he has been unassailable as one of the best players in the league to start the year. He's been the driving force behind the vast majority of their wins. I think he's taken defense more seriously than ever. I think his scoring diversity has been better than it's been at any point during his career. And while he's had some lulls as a three-point shooter, generally he has just figured out ways to get to the basket, score from the mid-range, get fouled if the shot's not there. So unqualified success for him to start the year. And right now he's firmly an all-NBA player. I think he's probably outside of the MVP race just because of the team record, and some guys are also just having excellent seasons while driving more winning, in part because their teams have been a little more whole, but that's another conversation. But he's been awesome. You're not going to hear anything different from anyone who talks on this show. And we don't have to think much more about it with him, I don't think. Yeah,
I think just as like a principle, I don't have a strict no A plus policy, but like you would have to really be just truly absurd to get an A plus. And honestly, Tyrese was close enough to that where I had to give it real thought. Like there is no reasonable expectation you could have had that he hasn't met. He's obviously shooting the heck out of the ball, 39% from three-point range on 9.3 attempts per game.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
By the
it's
way.
Crazy. And the volume and efficiency is crazy. He's getting the free throw line a lot more. He's passing more. He's controlling the offense more. He's creating for others more. His defense, which you noted, and I think is true, is better than it's ever been. He is. You can have individual performances where maybe he didn't quite meet the insanely high expectations we have for him, but that just reveals that he is human. He has been night in, night out, their best player, the most consistent player, the reason they are in most of these games. And like I said, every individual step you could have hoped he could have achieved, I think he's pretty much met that and more. It's really been an inspiring start.
Yeah, and I will say, so he got an A, and that A for me is on the entire NBA curve. For a lot of these guys, I was grading them against maybe expectations or what we should expect from them, especially role players. But I think Maxey, however way you slice it, score just the pure volume, the efficiency, the defensive commitment and improvement that he's made there, the leadership that we hear from all his teammates talking about how integral he is in practices, off-season workouts, trying to build something where there hasn't been anything there to build from over the last year and a half or so. So awesome start to the year for him. I hope for his sake, for the team's sake, but definitely for his sake, that they get some health during this extended break that they have here during the NBA Cup semifinals, finals, or knockout rounds, I guess I should say, because he has played at a level that he deserves to have the best possible team around him right now to help him win games.
That's probably a good point to call out. Mine are graded based on the expectations I had for them coming into the season. And even with that, like obviously you expected Tyrese to be good, but to get an A, like think back to last year. And we can talk about like, yeah, they haven't had everyone healthy. They, I think, have more people available than they did last year, clearly. But there were so many people concerned about his shooting numbers, concerned about him not making the jump as a playmaker, concerned about them not winning games when Maxey was playing without Embiid. And here we are 23 games into the season, and he's answered pretty much every one. It really has been, if you were going to sit here and nitpick Tyrese's game, you would essentially be saying like, well, I expect the 6'2" guy that we drafted with the 21st pick to be the best player in the league rather than the 10th best player in the league. Yeah. At that point, you're just being unrealistic. Like he has met
of course
every expectation you could have had. So I think an A is an easy answer.
All right. Well, after Maxey, because we wanted to make sure we led with the guy who's the shining star of the season so far, we did leave it up to Bree to where we're going to go next. So Bree, if you want to throw the next player and grade on the screen, there we go. So Joel Embiid, Derek gave a C-. I gave a D. So we're in the same general range.
Ballpark.
I was lower, but it's not like you were high on him.
Yeah. I think probably the reason that I have a higher grade is because I probably expected less. I think
that's definitely true based on how high or not high we were on him heading into the year.
Yeah. I think with how much he struggled moving in January when we saw him, I just didn't have any real expectations even when he was on the court. My whole philosophy with Embiid has been like expectations low, hope to be surprised. And, I do think he has been worse in many ways than even maybe like his shooting right now. What is he shooting? He's like sub 41% from the field.
Yep.
I expect that to get better.
And 21% from three.
Yeah. I expect that to get better. I think him playing more regularly will help him get into that rhythm. I just have no idea if that's ever going to happen. I probably grade it a little sympathetically because I just don't think a lot of this is inside his control. Like, I think they are taking that super cautious approach because they know they have a knee that's very problematic. But yeah, look, his offense, I mean, we talk about his defense and that's always going to be my focus. Like I need him to be able to either anchor the defense or at least control the glass. I think he's learning to live with that. That is the part that I probably expect him to struggle with. The offense, I'm optimistic will come around, but in order for him to get a decent grade, it's got to improve significantly.
Yeah, so I do think the people who are saying F are really being skewed by the last we saw of him, and I don't blame them because he spent a long 3-week period on the shelf where he's not playing, and so there are not a lot of games to go off of to even grade him in the first place. He has not looked good at all offensively since coming back. I do think early in the year there was at least the balance of, all right, the defense and rebounding are not there, and that's what I've been most disappointed by. It's not that I'm expecting him to come in and be explosive Joel, but I needed to see more commitment from him as a rebounder because as Tyrese takes more of the offensive responsibility, as VJ develops, as Paul plays more games, I think there have been enough guys playing well and taking enough touches to say, Joel, you don't have to be a 20-plus shot attempt guy. You don't have to be a 30-point scorer. And with that comes a focus on the other areas of the game. Outside of some moments in that Lakers game, I've been really, really disappointed in what I've seen in him as a defender, as a rebounder. And I think that's where I ultimately fall. And that's why I give him a D, because the ceiling hasn't really been there on offense except for that Raptors game where he's 10 of 16, he scores 29 points, and it was really effortless. It was against a team that they played a lot of 6'8", 6'9" guys, no real center. They switched everything, and Joel was able to eat while just basically playing off of Tyrese Maxey and the other guards. And that was kind of the idealized version of Joel on offense. That gave me a little bit of hope. Outside of that, I have just not loved what I've seen from him. And I'm placing a lot higher expectations on him to exert himself, to make explosive moves as a defender and rebounder. If he is like a 18 to 20 point guy, the way he's been so far, that won't matter as much to me if he's doing the other stuff. But I care about centers playing defense. I think it is the most important thing that they do. Joel's been a rare case where his offensive ceiling was so high during his 4 or 5 year peak there that you could get away with stretches of the game where he's like, all right, I got to take a play off here and there, but still be a high level defender. There's no wiggle room anymore. I need his commitment to all areas of the game. So hasn't been available that much, hasn't been that great when he played, and needs to be a lot better moving forward.
Yeah. No, it is the last 2 games, and the last game specifically offensively, are dragging down his numbers a little bit. And when you're early in the season, like that will have a significant impact on your overall stat line. I do think before he missed these last couple of weeks, he was starting to trend upwards. I'm hopeful that now, you're in the first couple games back after that layoff, he will trend upwards, but it has not been good enough. If I'm being honest, I was debating between a C- and a D+.
Yeah. And I would say that I think he is still, even when he has the 4 for 21 game, I think you see the benefit of him being out there in the type of shots that VJ can get, the type of shots McCain can get. But there's only so much credit you can give someone for what are effectively screen assists. I'm not going to turn into one of those guys, or it's like the Rudy Gobert. Boy, do you see how many screen assists he has in this game? My expectations are higher for him. Maybe they shouldn't be. Maybe we should all just sit here and say, you can't get that much out of him at this point. But based on the standard I think he would hold himself to and that the team needs him to play to, he's in that D+, C-
Yeah, and look, I think if we were being like, I would like to, I wanted to give everyone a grade. Even if they barely played, I want to give everyone a grade.
Yeah.
Realistically, he's probably an incomplete because it has and someone just brought this up in chat, I don't see it, but he has a minutes restriction. He needs 2 days off after every game. He's missed a couple weeks because of that right knee. I don't expect him to be in a rhythm, and the only way you're going to get a good version of Embiid is if he's able to play more consistently and maybe only 1 day off in between games and more minutes. But given what he's shown you so far, it has not been what you need. So I think that's fair.
All right. Where do we go next? Look at that. The same
agreement.
Exact grade for Paul George, B-.
This is the one that I think people are not going to like.
Yeah, because the bad game. So I will say the Lakers game was a lot closer to last year, where on offense he was pretty anonymous. I didn't think about him in the same way that Tobias Harris would be out there for the Sixers, and you go through the whole game, and I'm looking through my recap before I post it, and I'm like, I didn't write anything about Tobias. And that was kind of the same feeling I got after that Lakers game with Paul. But I think it's undeniable that he's made the defense considerably better.
Significantly better.
I think he's had a couple of games, the Milwaukee one, actually both Milwaukee games, I guess, but the more recent Milwaukee game where he closed Milwaukee out down the stretch and offered something on offense that we were waiting for out of him for most of last year. I think we've seen enough from him there that it's like, all right, he looks closer to himself physically. And while he has not been available, has had the same kind of issues as Joel has, I also think you can see in the same breath as we're talking about Joel and the screen assists and whatnot, the difference between having Paul on the floor and playing him as a 4 versus the Barlows, the Watfords, even the Walkers, has opened up a lot of space for their guards. And there have been several opportunities that VJ's been able to create because the one pass away is PG and he gets a straight shot to the rim. I think there are a lot of examples of plays like that. In addition to the secondary playmaking Paul's been able to add, where you can get VJ and McCain and Maxey off ball, get some catch and shoot opportunities. I won't say I've been thrilled with Paul George, but I've been mostly okay with what he's offered. If he wasn't making $50+ million, I think a lot of people would be happier with him. But unfortunately, the contract is how you get judged and evaluated by a lot of people. So I get why people would be lower. I'm mostly happy that someone came in and put the hard hat on defense and help get this thing turned around.
Yeah. Look, if you look at his, because I think the numbers are going to be deflated because he's been on a minutes restriction for most of the year. Mm-hmm. If you look at the per minute numbers, he is somewhere in between where he was last year and where he was with the Clippers. He's at 21 points per 36 minutes. Last year, that was at 18. 7.4 rebounds. Last year, that was at 6. Assists are pretty much the same, a little bit less efficient, but I think that will come with time. I think, and really, those are mostly offensive numbers. to Kyle's point, the reason he gets a B- for me is because that defense legitimately changed the team. It made the team more complete on that end, more competitive, gives you a lot more options. He's been one of your more consistent defenders. He has been a legitimately good player. You just need him on the floor more. He's not been max good, and I know there was a chat or a comment earlier relating to Embiid, but it can be related to Paul George as well, where they say when you're on a max contract, I'm not grading you on a curve. Okay, I think that's a little bit unrealistic, especially for a player like Embiid who's missing so much meniscus and somebody like Paul George who's 35 or whatever he is. If you take away the contract and just say, is he helping you on the basketball court? I think it's a very clear yes.
Yeah, the contract is really the only thing here that you have to say graded against that contract, and that's more of a Daryl Morey thing than I think it is a Paul George thing. He's not giving you enough, but he has made the Sixers better as a defense essentially by himself. He has by far the biggest swing for their defense, and I think you see it when you watch the games. He's a great help defender still. He's not the man defender he used to be, but there have been times when saw him against Luka on Sunday, saw him against some other high-level perimeter players already. He's still capable of shutting some guys down in ISO situations. So that weighs really heavily for me when I want and expect the offense to run through Maxey, to run through VJ, to run through McCain, Quentin to a lesser extent. If he focuses almost entirely on defense and is a situational scorer, I personally would be happy with that regardless of the contract stuff.
Yep. All right. I think now is probably a pretty good time to hit a break and talk to some of our friends. We got the big three out of the way. We'll have a few more grades coming up after the break. You ever head on over to a friend's house, you're ready to watch a big game, you get there and their setup is a total mess. Not 5 turnovers, 1 game mess, but a total mess nonetheless. It's lagging, it's buffering, they're switching between apps trying to find the game. They claim that they were a big fan, but you feel like you've been tricked. See, if you call yourself a basketball fan, you have to have Xfinity. It's the ultimate sports destination where you can find the best games and your favorite teams all in one place, and the way that you watch is next level. Got all the action right in your living room, plus Xfinity's best picture and sound with enhanced 4K. It's so clear that it feels like you're in the arena. On top of that, you get real-time notifications and live stats right on your TV. It's the best seat in the house every time. Next game day, make sure that big fan isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Restrictions apply. Multi-view requires Xfinity 4K-capable TV box.
Guys, everyone wants to spread a little bit of holiday cheer this time of year. At least the nice people out there do. What better way to do so than by getting that special someone in your life an Aura frame? Aura frames bring memories to your loved ones' homes. There are all kinds of holiday traditions that I'm sure I have a Christmas Eve drinking tradition with my family. We go out, we hit the town, and we get some nice group photos of wherever we might go. Does sound like the Newbeck family, doesn't it, Derek? So we get to savor that because we can put those photos, those videos, those memories within an Aura frame. You can make whatever memories are special to you and your family your own. You have unlimited photos and videos you can upload. You can preload those before it ships and give that to that special someone in your life. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. Use the promo code PHLY at checkout. That's AURAFrames.com, promo code PHLY. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. Order yours now. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers show, brought to you by Bet365. Yeah. All right.
Struggling with the words today for a professional podcaster.
We only talk for a living. One day I will get the hang of it. All right. So I think probably no more to add there for PG.
And we can move on to our next player. Oh my God. Look at the synergy. Just so everyone knows, B+ for VJ Edgecombe for our audio only listeners. Yeah. Derek and I did these completely blind. Maybe we just need to find someone off the street who will give
who doesn't
their
talk to you every day,
who we don't mind meld in this way. So you go first on this one, Derek. Why B+ for VJ?
I almost went to a B. Okay. It was kind of like a last minute bump up, in part because I just feel like the stuff at the rim is, we've talked about this before.
It's pretty tragic.
But it was a struggle at Baylor. You hoped in the NBA it will get better. I think it will eventually get better. I think you just hope for some early returns that he would navigate it a little bit better. That stuff is concerning, and I wrote a big, long article about that not too long ago at allphly.com. He is leaving easy points on the table, and I think over time that will get better. But outside of that, the defense, I think, has been he's adapted quicker than I think maybe I expected.
Yep.
Like, even for a good defender and a player with good physical tools and good buy-in, it usually takes quite a bit before you learn the tricks of the trade necessary to really be a consistent defender. And I think in the first week or two, he had his ups and downs, but since then he has been pretty consistent. And the three-point shot, the catch-and-shoot shot specifically, has been a quicker transition and a more seamless transition and a more consistent part of his game than I think you would have expected. Like, him coming out here and shooting, I don't even know, what is he currently shooting from three-point range?
37.6% overall.
That's incredible. And look,
Yeah.
It's almost all off the catch. Pretty much none of it is coming off the dribble. You do hope he will add that to his game down the road, but that was not a realistic ask for a 20-year-old who had that as a part that he had to improve upon. Early returns, I think, are very, very good.
I think the shooting has been good enough that it almost pushes it into A- territory based on the expectations. If it wasn't for the horrible
layups,
finishing and some of the wonkiness from mid-range, I think he might have gotten there for me. Because I agree with you. He is ahead of schedule on defense. I think the level at which he's played defense, combined with how well he shot the ball, particularly off ball, he is already at the point where he can play in almost any lineup. There is no lineup where I look at Edgecombe being on the floor and I'm like, boy, he's taking something off the table here that they need. That is a gigantic win for him. 20-ish games into he's actually played exactly 20 games out of the 23. And the catch and shoot number being at over 43% is astounding to me. I was a believer in the shot. We talked through that a lot as we scouted him and ranked our different players on our big boards this year. But he is shooting the ball way better than we could have expected. I think that's a testament not just to the underlying stuff, the free throw numbers, the high school numbers, but the amount of work he's put in, the amount of reps he got in the summertime between when he was drafted and when he started playing NBA games. Because even if you believed in the shot, he has extended it to NBA range immediately. And that is a tough transition, even for very good shooters who can struggle right away. So that's driving a lot of it. The defense is driving a lot of it. I do want to see more from VJ, the ball handler, VJ, the finisher. Those are the two main areas where I look at him and I say, I need more consistency. I need to feel that the ball is safer in your hands when you're going up to the rim or you're trying to create off of the bounce. Those are very real issues that will make a determination of whether he's just a role player or whether he can become more of a star or all-star caliber type player down the road. But for what they've needed him to do and immediately translate, I think he's done an excellent job. Very, very happy with him this year.
Now, if he continues to wear the headband, then he gets bumped up to an A-. That will bump him up. Headband, wear the headband or finish at the rim. Either one, you get an A-.
Yeah. And I also like some of the other thing we have to take into account. He looked amazing immediately. And then as he was racking up these huge amounts of minutes, I thought you could clearly see the fatigue and the physicality weigh on him. Missed some time with the calf strain and came back. I think once he came back, you could see the explosiveness again. And so I think some of the struggles he's gone through come down to Nick Nurse and the coaching staff got to be a little bit more responsible with how they use him, get McCain more minutes, play VJ in more ideal situations. But I think overall, very, very happy with him.
And it really is a good point. Like translating that three-point shot, even the catch and shoot three-point shot from day one, even for good shooters who come in the league as good shooters, doesn't always happen. For him to come in with yes, we acknowledge that his catch and shoot shot was further along than his off the dribble three. Even still, it came in as a little bit of a question mark. For him to hit the ground running the way he has is really, really encouraging. All right, I think that is it for VJ. Who do we got up here next, Bree?
Let's see. All right, Dominick Barlow. I went B+. Derek goes A-.
Yeah,
very right in the same range.
I would guess you probably want him to occasionally make a shot.
Yeah, and he did in the Lakers game. I think he was 1 for 2 from 3, and that was a nice thing. But I think he's been above expectations.
Yes, and that is a key to the A-
that's a huge
grade.
part of it for sure. I think the only thing that I worry about both short and medium term is that I think teams are increasingly already saying, go ahead and take that open three. Like, we're going to take 8 to 10 feet of space off of you. And as spacing is at a premium for this team and any other team at all times, that is a big deal. Now, that being said, if you just judged him based on he's on a 2-way contract, it's an A+. It's a home run signing for Daryl Morey in the front office. Credit to Nick Nurse for immediately finding a role for him. And credit to Barlow for, I think the thing that's really jumped for me, while the rebounding has been up and down at times, he was an elite rebounder early, and then it's kind of gone up and down, up and down. I think the decision-making has been really, really good on offense. He's been a secondary playmaker without really ever putting the ball at risk. And I think the switchability on defense has been pretty outstanding based on expectations. So, again, very happy with him overall. The shooting, though, I think is a legitimate problem potentially, and they're going to need him to I don't think the mechanics are getting fixed in the middle of this season, but they're going to need him to start hitting some shots out there consistently.
This grade is the ultimate. Like, this is based off of expectations, not who they are. Like, he's not an A- contributor. Yeah. He's an A- for what you expected coming in, for what we were able to get him on a 2-way contract. He's weird. He's going to end up being one of my best grades on this, and you still don't really know if he's playable in the playoffs. Like, it's a kind of a weird spot, because I share Kyle's concern. Like, and part of the reason that he hasn't gotten minutes on a stretch, I think, is because you're basically playing 4-on-5 in the half court. He'll contribute in transition. He'll contribute on the offensive glass in the half court. But other than that, he is a player you can completely abandon in the corners and not really be hurt by it. But the defense is really, really good. Like, legitimately one of the better defenders on the team, one of the better, more active rebounders on the team. He does help you get out in transition. He does help you run, fill lanes in transition. He needs a 3-point shot, and he's going to have a very, very long NBA career. I share Kyle's concern that I don't necessarily think with that form a 3-point shot is all that likely. Yeah. Hasn't been to this point through his NBA career, but he's doing so much more and been so much more of an integral part on your defense that, to me, I do bump him up to an A- while acknowledging that is based off of expectations coming in, not that he is an A- player.
Yeah. I think he's been great.
One more in here before we get to the next break. I think.
Sure. Who do we got next? Bree? Jared McCain. C for Derek and a C- for me.
Yeah. I think in part why I didn't go any lower is because I think he is sort of in the Joel Embiid boat, where he's just barely starting to get back into a rhythm. Mm-hmm. When he was starting to get back into a rhythm, Nick Nurse took him out of, or at least limited his role in the rotation, in part because of matchups, in part because other players are getting healthy. I think he was starting to play decent ball over that 5-game stretch. It's just, he had a really rough start. I think you understand why.
Yeah.
And now he's had 2 games here where he has not gotten a lot of burn. And I do think, look, we had a lot of concerns at the time of the draft, which some people have been very desirous to point out whenever this is brought up, but we had a lot of concerns about him defensively, and specifically him defensively next to Tyrese. And I do think there have been moments, I generally think positionally, rotationally, he is pretty good defensively. It's just he's at a huge physical disadvantage. So when you have nights where you're struggling, or when you come out to start the season and because you can't get to your spots, you struggle, those defensive limitations come even more to the forefront. I think, look, I am a very big Jared McCain believer, at least offensively. I think he is going to figure it out. I think when he finally does get not just the sleeve or whatever he's got on off as well, I think he's going to move better and better and better and get to his spots more and more and more. I think even over the last 2 games when he hasn't gotten big run, he's been getting to his spots on offense. I think, like I said, I'm a big believer in him offensively. I do worry about how much you're going to be able to play him alongside of Tyrese on defense. Yeah,
a C-, C is right in the range for me. It could have gone either way. And I do think it's a lot of, you got to provide caveats with these grades, because he was awful to start the year, but we all understand why he was awful. The mobility was limited. He clearly was struggling with that brace and just to find his rhythm and within NBA game speed after being off for most of a year. Anyone would struggle in that situation. I get it. He didn't get a preseason. He got thrown into the mix on a team that, frankly, was already cooking.
Massive brace on his knee.
Yeah, like they already had a rotation that was working. He came back in the Chicago game where that was the battle of the undefeated teams. It's not gone that way quite since. But he comes back into a team that was not a finished product, but at least humming along. And so now he's got to figure out his place within the context of that. And that was tough. I give him credit, though, for he had a stretch there where it was 15 points, 20 points off the bench, and looked like he's finding a groove. And it's just hard to tell where he's going to fit in because of the defensive concerns Nurse has. The shot has been there for stretches, but then there's a game where he's 2 for 8 against Milwaukee. He's 2 for 6 from 3 against the Wizards, albeit in a game where he played really well otherwise, I thought. 2 for 7 against the Hawks from the field and 1 for 2 from downtown. Like, the offense has not been consistent enough that Nurse can feel comfortable in his mind playing him alongside these other guards. Some of this, I think, is a grade directed at Nurse, too, for the usage of Jared. And maybe we're going to get to Nurse at some point. So I want to see more, but I am empathetic for how tough it's been for him coming back. So I think C is right around the range.
Yeah, and a C grade is not reflective of what I think he's going to be going forward, like I said.
Yeah.
Still a huge believer in Jared on offense.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's shooting 38% from the field, and so and under 36% from 3. It's hard to give him a great grade with that and the defensive concerns.
Yep. All right, I think probably head to a break and then get to a couple more of the grades. So, you ever head on over to a friend's house? You ready? Okay, next up, we want to tell you about Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide. With they stream 780,000 events each year. Early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. Bet365 has pioneered live in-game betting. Today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. And on Tuesdays, Bet365 has Tip-Off Tuesdays. See for yourself with our Tip-Off Tuesdays offer. Place a qualifying same-game parlay bet with the safety net bonus feature on Tuesday NBA games and get up to $10 in bonus bets if the bet loses. Terms and conditions apply. Download the app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Guys, our injury king, Devon, is not here today. So fortunately / unfortunately, I can't wax poetic about my firsthand experience with Rothman Orthopedics, but I have covered the Philadelphia 76ers for basically the last decade, and I've become intimately familiar with all sorts of ailments, maladies, injuries, whatever it might be. So whether it's a sore knee, stiff shoulder, or nagging back pain, Rothman Orthopedics is here to help you get back to the life that you love. For Devon, that's playing basketball. I'm going to be traveling quite soon, so you can't be, if you're on the go, you're touring new cities and new places, you don't want to be sore, you don't want to be stiff, you don't want to be injured. At Rothman, their team of specialists treats all kinds of orthopedic issues from everyday strains to long-term joint pain with care that's efficient, effective, and close to home. Don't let the pain keep you sidelined. Schedule an appointment today at rothmanortho.com/PHLY. Rothman Orthopedics, your mobility, our mission. Welcome back. We're here with the AI robot, Derek Bodner, and me, Kyle Neubeck, here on the PHLY Sixers show. Thank you, everyone, for tolerating Robot Boy over there. Bree, if you have the next set of grades for us to go through, now is the time. Oh, look wait. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I can't be right.
That is not what I submitted
either.
Uh-oh, Bree. We're having real glitches in the Matrix today.
All right, okay. All right, so we're on Quentin Grimes. There we go.
Quentin Grimes, I gave a B. Derek gave a B-.
Yeah.
All right.
I think probably.
Why the minus?
Which is funny because I feel like you complain about Quentin more than I
do. But he's also won them several games almost by himself.
He's probably been the toughest one to grade. Well, no, the toughest ones are like half the roster because they're all like incompletes and you're trying to piece that together. He's been tough. Of the players who have been on the court regularly, he was the toughest to grade.
Yeah.
Because the shooting, especially the catch and shoot shooting, has been real good. I think he's at 37% on the year, but catch and shoot, he's really good. Defense has been really good. He's made some huge shots down to stretch. But my guy, if you don't stop dribbling the basketball, we're all going to lose our minds. So it's really tough to come to a firm grasp. I think he's been a net positive pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And I think when he's been on the floor with your mainstays, he has mostly played the role that you've wanted him to play, which I think a lot of people had a question mark. So I think he's exceeded my expectations in part because I think he has fit into that role that you need him to fit into. He's fit into that off-ball role, into that catch-and-shoot role. It's just you need him to dial back some of his tendencies that frustrate you. And I think part of that, we talked about Jared McCain not too long ago. When Jared McCain's fully up to speed, I need him running the offense when Maxey's on the bench. I don't need these VJ and Quentin lineups where you're asking those two to kind of steer the offense. I would rather have VJ and McCain share shot creation and offensive responsibilities than I would, VJ and Quentin. So I hope as Paul comes back and is on a court more regularly, he's going to run a little bit of your offense as well. Yeah. Hopefully you get more of the good version of Quentin and less of the I'm going to cook version of Quentin. But I do think he can fit into that, 3-and-D, and I'll let him attack closeouts too, role very, very well. And I think he's shown that.
Yeah, I just never want to see him play point guard again. It's kind of where I'm at, and I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think in the role they need him to play, catch and shoot, close out attack player, attack and transition, and defend ones and twos at the point of attack. He's been firmly good, and so he's a solid B for me. And frankly, like his issues, air quotes around issues, his problems that he's had this year are all problems of a player in that archetype, a sixth man, instant offense type of player off the bench. And he's a better defender than most of those guys that you're asking to come in and be that type of player. So broadly, pretty happy with him. You're right that I do complain about him a lot. And then you take a step back, you look at how the team performs with him on the floor, you look at the shooting, and it's like, I get it. The turnovers are ghastly, and those drive me absolutely insane. But by and large, has been a hugely positive player for them.
Yes.
So at least a B for me, and could be talked into more.
Yeah, I could have been talked into a B quite easily. Yeah. Quite easily. All right, I think we've got another one. If Bree is,
let's see what Bree's got.
There we go.
Okay, I was gonna say I definitely gave Kelly an A-. Derek is not. Neither one of us are historically big Kelly guys, but I think the A- reflects what we've seen from him this year, Derek, which is probably the best offensive start to a season of his career, albeit it tailed off. And he is a hugely important piece to their defense. As we talked about Paul George earlier, I think the real shame of when Paul came back was we haven't gotten to see Kelly Oubre and Paul George together in that 3-4 combo on the wing to see you put those two, VJ Edgecombe on the floor, this year's version of Tyrese Maxey. I think that's a team that can get stops, get out on the break and score, and really create some havoc. I think everyone in the fan base has been super thrilled with Kelly to start the year. Even the people who are Oubre skeptics, and I would count us amongst those, are happy with Kelly. Yeah. He plays hard. He has done what he needed to do on offense. He was a reliable second scorer, their most reliable and best perimeter defender this year, I believe. So A- for me. The lack of an A is just because as the season wore on a little bit, the shooting came back down to earth. And,
it did.
You're going to have to live with some ups and downs from him. But I think largely a very good, even great season for him as a role player so far.
Yeah, I mean, the shot is going to, I think, drive a little bit of this. Because for the most part, he has, if you could split Kelly into an offense and defense, he has been an A- defender for me pretty much consistently, especially over the last year and a half. Offense, some nights he's an A-, some nights he can go all the way down to C-. Part of that depends on the shot. Part of that depends on the decision-making. I think the decision-making this year has been better than it has historically been. The shot, I'm not going to sit up here and pretend that I have a ton of faith in. Like even 34%, I might doubt whether he's going to be able to keep
I think
that
if he shot, he's like what, 34.5, 34 points, or 34.3.
Let's put it this way. If he ends up the season at 34.3, I'll be happy.
I would take that because I think he does enough other offensive stuff.
Now, in the 4 games before he got injured, he shot 2 for 19 over those 4 games. He was already, he was shooting 37% pretty deep, well, relatively deep, 7 or 8 games deep into the season. He has come back down to earth. I'm still a huge skeptic on that shot. But if he defends hard, if he doesn't necessarily go ISO Kelly too much, and if he at least takes the shots when he's open, I will live with the results.
Yeah. I have no real complaints for him other than, again, he started shooting the ball poorly before he got hurt. Yep. But everything else has been outstanding to start the year. And I think as Tyrese talks about setting a tone every day and having a consistent standard, I think Kelly has been an integral piece of doing that.
Yep. And especially like you go back to the last game against the Lakers, you really could have used his defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a big way. All right. Next up here, Bree, if you have it ready to go. Trendon
We were
Watford.
really like all right on the very close on all these. C+ for me for Watford, B- for Derek.
Yeah, I think that's probably in part because I just didn't have, like, I think where he has struggled, especially on defense. I feel like defense is where he struggles the most. I think I expected that, so I probably didn't ding him as hard for the defense as maybe other people will. You know, I think he is an intriguing skill set that you really have to worry about where you put him on defense, and the shot's going to be streaky. And I think so far he's been an intriguing passer whose defense is problematic and the shot is streaky. I think he's mostly been who I expected.
Yeah, I think his good games have been very good.
Yeah.
His bad games have been very bad. And I think Nurse has been a bit too reluctant to pull him when he has been bad. He continues to play him and it allows those games to compound. Whereas I think in the case of the two-way guys, if like Barlow or Walker is playing poorly, or even like a Justin Edwards is playing poorly, Nurse will just pull them. They'll be out of the rotation. And I have not quite seen that. Once Watford was up to speed, he was really just penciled in as a pretty firm rotation guy every night. So, yeah, the defense has been pretty ugly, and that's got to get cleaned up. But a lot of the point forward creation type stuff has been really good, and the synergy with Maxey on some of those dribble handoff plays has been good. So I could see him. The other thing is he also has just been injured, and that has had an impact on him too. So I think the ceiling is a good bit higher, but we'll see if he can solidify the floor a little bit.
Yeah, and I do think probably part of the reason I had a relatively optimistic grade on him is because I just think the skill set, which can be a tricky fit for a non-high usage star, they've been able to integrate that maybe quicker than I expected.
Yep.
So the people bringing up the defense, 100% agree with you. I'm not sure how playable he is in the playoffs. It's going to be a something you have to really evaluate throughout the course of the season. But
yeah,
that's why he's on a minimum.
We could probably squeeze another one in here before we take a break.
Absolutely.
All right, Andre Drummond, a B for me and a B+ for Derek. What made you go plus? And was there any consideration for an A- since you're at B+?
It might have been a little bit of consideration, but the reason there's a B+ is because my expectations were on the floor.
Okay.
I had no expectations for Andre coming in. I was begging for Adem Bona.
No, we said the whole offseason, we're like, I really hope he doesn't play at all because we want to see Adem Bona really snag that backup role and then the starting role when Joel Embiid is out.
And that was in part because I wanted to see Adem just grab that spot and really improve and showcase he can do it. In part because I had no expectations for Andre. And he was moving so poorly last year that it was, his rebounding and his defensive rebounding especially had taken a dip. It was still very good, but it had taken a dip. But his mobility defensively was borderline unplayable. And, you thought maybe it was a toe. You hoped it was a toe, but I wasn't
That toe
ready.
yoga did wonders, boy.
Yes. I'm going to get started on, maybe I can be a better podcast. Maybe I can do my ad reads correctly if I start some toe yoga. But you hoped it was a toe, but I wasn't ready to rely on it being the toe. And look, he's still got his limitations, clearly. But he's come out, and at least for a couple of weeks, that corner three looked like it might be real, and that gave us something to talk about and to dream about, at least have some fun with. But he's definitely moving better on defense. And is he going to be a plus defender? No. But he's been at least close enough to neutral that he can eat up minutes at a position that the Sixers desperately need somebody to eat up minutes. So for me, that's a B+.
I honestly, revising, I would probably give him a B+. The more I'm thinking about it,
it's just weird to give him a higher grade than VJ Edgecombe. I know why I'm doing it. No, I'd VJ at a B+ too. It's weird to give him the same grade as VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah. Andre, to your point, has been much better than I think we expected coming off of last season. I think they have won most of the minutes that he's played this year. So the big thing for me is that I think some of the things he's historically been bad at, like playing up at the level and defending in space, he honestly has been better this year than I can remember. The rebounding has been there. Not only is he getting the raw rebounding stats on both ends of the floor, I think there are a lot of instances where he's drawing fouls, competing with guys, and that's helping, when they get deep into games, Maxey's able to shoot free throws in the bonus earlier because of Andre's impact in that way. I also think can't really take for granted the fact that Andre Drummond is shooting 38% from three, and he's taken over a three per game. I know that every time we sit on press row and we watch Andre Drummond shoot a three, Derek, that I sit there and say to you, oh no. And then he makes one.
Especially the above the break ones. Above the break
right,
should
the corner
not happen.
ones, I'm okay with the occasional open corner three. The trail threes, I think we need to maybe have a little bit of a discussion about. But I think he's been very, very good in both the backup role and as the starter for long periods with Joel out. So another guy I've been pretty happy with, and I think he's helped them improve their depth without making big additions.
Yep. No, and this is another one that's heavily based off of expectations, and someone who you felt like you could not count on coming in, being a relatively reliable piece, has been a good development for sure. All right, let's go talk to a couple more of our friends, plug back into the Matrix, and maybe not glitch this time.
Robot Bodner, here we go. What dreams did you have when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? How about now? Are you thinking about starting your own business? When I was a kid, in a fake economy we created in my 4th grade classroom, my classmates and I invented a business. It was called Toys Aren't Us, We Sell Couches. That wasn't too successful. We didn't end up getting that one off of the ground. So maybe you have a better idea than Kyle and his little buddies did in 4th grade. Shopify is the place to go. It's the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify even powers the PHLY merch store where you can get wonderful new hats and t-shirts and all sorts of other stuff. Shopify has got you covered: website creation, product description, small and social media marketing, and more, plus AI tools to help you maximize sales. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into money with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. Start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity.
And guys, fall always feels like a reset, which is true, although I wish it still felt like fall because it has been cold outside. But between back to school, busier routines, and shorter days, finding time to cook can be tough. That's why we love Factor. Their chef prep, dietitian approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious no matter how hectic the season gets. Factor gives you more variety and more meals. Choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. Factor helps you support your wellness goals, including new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good-for-you fats. For more choices to better nutrition, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. Feel the difference no matter your routine. Eat smart at factormeals.com/PHLY50 off and use code PHLY50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code PHLY50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Sixers show. As we continue handing out grades, we'll call it quarter season grades, even though we're a couple games past quarter season. This just so happens to be when we have time to actually do a 3 p.m. show.
And by the way, before you see us give grades for the coach and the GM, maybe you could hit the like button on this video. It helps us out in the algorithm.
Where's my finger?
It makes Bree feel warm and fuzzy inside. Yeah, we don't have the foam finger that Devon likes to wave around, but every time you hit the thumbs up button while you're watching one of our videos, it helps us out a great deal, more than you probably realize. So if you could just do that for us, if you're enjoying the show, it would be greatly appreciated by us. And now we see what the next grade is.
This is the one people are going to be really pissed off about, I think.
Oh, well, I was much higher, I guess, but not still in the C range.
Yeah.
Well, you say people are going to be pissed off because why? You think they
want him to have
F?
an F and be fired? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think they have the things I complained about last season, not having pet plays that they would go to. I think there's been more consistent off-ball actions from Maxey. Part of that is aided by the fact that they have more ball handlers. I have definitely liked that. They've competed every night. They have established an identity without Joel Embiid, which that was maybe my biggest criticism of Nurse all last year. You knew coming into the year, you were relying on a Joel Embiid who you knew what he looked like physically more than we did, and you knew what the history was, and you still were as unprepared. So I think he's done better at those things this year. But I do ultimately kind of feel that he's not in that upper tier of coaches that actually has a sizable impact on the game. I think he's in the middle chunk of coaches in the league. And so that's ultimately where I land on him. I don't think he's been a huge difference maker. I don't think he's been taking a remarkable amount of things off the table. Night to night, I've had issues. I honestly think the biggest issue I've had with him is the Jared McCain stuff we talked about on yesterday's episode, Derek, where we said you just got to find more minutes for this guy. You have to focus on development as much as you are night to night wins. I do think that's part of the problem with bringing him back and having him coach this year, is that he is in a situation where everyone knows that his job is probably up for grabs based on how this season goes. And so he's going to coach in a way that's what's the most immediate result I can get. I think Jared McCain has been a victim of that. I think that is a potential problem now and moving forward. Otherwise, I'm just not that moved one way or another by how he's performed this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, he came in and he's playing VJ heavy minutes and giving him a sizable role. I like that. He gave Bona a chance, quite frankly, and if Bona's not playing now, or at least not in the regular rotation, I blame Bona for that, not Nick. I agree with you that they have more of an identity when Joel's out of the lineup. You know, I look at the record, 13-10. Easy portion of the schedule, but a lot of players in and out of the rotation. I don't really think they should, like, we can nitpick individual games, but I don't think they're drastically underperforming in a one-loss record. So it would be hard for me with all of that to give him too harsh of a grade. Do I think he's necessarily elevating you a ton? No, not necessarily. And look, historically, I think third quarter, focusing too much on third quarter is foolish and a little overdone. Like I said before, if somebody stinks in the second quarter, nobody cares, because third quarter coming out of intermission, people focus on it a lot. Yeah. That being said, it does seem like the offense fundamentally breaks down in that third quarter. And when that offense breaks down, it then triggers the opponent's fast break, which is maybe the biggest weakness on his team, is getting back in transition. You've got to find a way to arrest that problem, and he hasn't been able to do that. It's been so consistent that that's a little bit of a ding. I do ding him a little bit for the Jared McCain stuff. But these are relatively minor nitpicks. I think he would be right in the middle. I think that is, you know, on a job that he has done, it's somewhere in that middle range. We could debate, you know, minus, plus. Maybe someone wants to go down to a D+. Maybe someone wants to go as high as a B-. If you had anything above or below that, I think you're probably either being a little bit too harsh or just a little bit crazy on your praise. I think it's got to be a middle grade.
I think it also reflects that our expectations for him probably weren't super high, that he's right around that C range. So not much more to debate on that one. I assume next will be Daryl Morey. I'm curious where you went with this one.
This is...
Okay, again, we're B- for me on Morey, C+ for Derek.
So this one was tough because I only wanted to grade him based on what he did this offseason.
And that's why I was in the B range.
Yeah. So like people are going to be like, well, he gets an F for the Embiid extension. That was, 16 months ago. I'm not including that in the grade now. It's based what you've done, like I said, since basically the end of last season and how those moves have impacted the team this year.
Yeah.
I want to give him, quite frankly, a B. But the Quentin Grimes thing is kind of pissing me off.
I would agree.
Now, because you should have Quentin locked up. You should have him as a trade chip. You should have him as either a long-term piece or a trade chip if you want to be aggressive and try to add someone. You can't you can trade him kind of if he waives it, but it's not going to be of any value. You really nerfed his value because you didn't get him signed. Mm-hmm. So I drop him a little bit because of that. But I also can't drop him too far because I think that's mostly a Josh Harris decision. And quite frankly, as I'm saying this now, I probably think it should be a B- because I think the reason you don't have Quentin on a deal is mostly Josh Harris related. I think Quentin, who Daryl Morey acquired, is playing well. I think VJ was a good pick.
Yeah.
And all of the minimum signings, when we start talking about Barlow and Watford and Walker, have shown intrigue for really 2 ways in minimum deals. All right. It's a C+ on the screen. I'm going back to a B- though. I think that's right.
Okay. Eugene Ross said $100K to boost his grade. Derek took the payola, Eugene. He took the cash. Yeah. So
look, $100K means way more to me than it does to Quentin Grimes.
Here's the other thing that normally you're the face of this argument, but the fact that 2 roster spots are being used on Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry, and they're not using the 15th roster spot, I a little bit put on him, but that would be more in the Josh Harris grade.
Yeah.
We didn't do one of those, and we're probably never going to do a
Well,
Josh
the 15th
Harris
roster
grade.
spot, I think, is firmly on Josh. Like,
Yeah.
that's on his grade. The Eric Gordon's tough because, like, you had 2 options. Either Eric Gordon was on the higher cap hit this year or you waived him and brought him back. But that's also Daryl's mistake because he gave him a 2-year deal the previous summer.
So I definitely value that he got 2 genuine NBA contributors on 2-way deals. The VJ pick is the most consequential thing they did in the offseason. And to be very happy with VJ, I have to be happy with Daryl and the scouting department. So that's why I end up in the B- B range. But yeah, not coming to some sort of agreement with Quentin. And yeah, I guess that's it. It's really the Quentin and the tax ducking / end of bench old men on the roster that I come down on him for.
Again, because I know that there are people, like, you're having an aneurysm right now hearing Daryl Morey be. It's not based on his tenure. It's not based on the state of the team.
Right. If it was based on the Embiid extension, I'd probably give him an F right now.
Right. And it's not based on the Paul George contract. It's just stuff that happened this past summer and how that's influencing this year's team.
Yeah.
That's the context for the grade. And with that, having talked through it, I'm going to bump my grade up to a B- as well.
There's also somebody who we're going to talk about shortly who he selected, who we didn't even mention, that's a demerit against Daryl in the front office as well.
It's certainly less of a part of your grade than the 3rd overall pick, but for sure.
All right, Bree, speaking of, who do we got next? Justin Edwards. Okay, so I had no idea what to do with Justin. I do think Derek goes D+, I went C. The more I think about it, I'm probably closer to you on this one because he's been a pretty big disappointment.
Yeah, there really haven't been that many players who have truly disappointed me this year, and Justin's one of them. Like, he has been unplayable for most of the year. Now, look, his 3-point shooting is creeping back up.
Yeah.
It's been streaky, but it's creeping back up. But, man, his everything else is just so much an adventure from the defense, which I thought was overstated last year, and it's been, I think, pretty below average this year. And anything inside the arc has just been an adventure.
Yeah. I definitely want to revise this one. I think C was a placeholder, and then I was like, yeah, I'll come back to this later, and I never did. But he just hasn't been very good. And frankly, there was a bit of chatter out of the organization early in the offseason, like, boy, Justin's in the gym every day. He's going to be a really important piece for us. And he's been a DNP coach's decision for several different games lately. And frankly, he has probably deserved to be. So that's that he's one of the very few wings they have on the roster, and he's not giving you much of anything on a lot of nights.
All right. Next one up here, Jabari Walker.
C
probably
for me,
influenced,
C+ for Derek.
Probably influenced a lot by recent performances. I feel like he's been getting better as the season has gone
I really
on.
feel bad about giving him the same grade as Justin Edwards after watching those back-to-back, because Jabari has been very good recently. I bumped that up to C+.
Yeah, he's been making a few more shots now. You just need to get him to shoot more, but he's been making more shots. And the effort on the glass has been fun to watch.
Yeah, now he's only up to about 34% from 3 for the year. He actually has the exact, on much lower volume, the exact 3-point shooting numbers as Kelly Oubre. Granted, he's a 2-way guy and lower expectations than Oubre, but I think he's doing the job that we expected him to do. He's right around expectations. If the shooting were to continue, that would change things, I think, pretty dramatically for him, because I trust him as a defender rebounder quite a bit. It's just,
if you keep making 4 threes in a game, you will get better than a C.
So I think I'm dropping Justin more and probably bumping Jabari up the more I think about it.
I think probably the reason why we might not have, I think we probably had higher expectations for him coming in than a lot of people in the chat. So I think some people in the chat might have a higher grade for him because their expectations were lower. But I think we were pretty interested to see what he would offer.
Yeah. So I think we'll probably hit a quick overtime here as we wrap up the end of the roster grade. So you guys on our fast channels, we thank you. Go to allphly.com to see the rest of the show.
All right. I think we have a couple more end of bench spots here to go.
All right. C- for both of us for Adem Bona.
One of the other, and quite frankly, like, there are portions of the year where, like, I want to give him a D+. Like, go right back down to where Justin is.
Now that I see, again, Justin, I really screwed up on the The C. I almost wonder if did I actually write C?
Bree just filled it in because you forgot.
Yeah, no, I did. It's not Bree's fault. That was my own fault because Justin's definitely been worse than Adem.
No, I think Justin has been the most disappointing player in my eyes, but Adem is a close second for me.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted him to lock down that backup center spot, maybe even be a spot starter at times, to use his defense and athleticism to really impact the game. And I do think at times the defense still pops. It's just the rebounding has been so bad and the offense has been an adventure at times, especially when it comes to catching a basketball, that it has been, he has not given you the kind of consistency or impact that you need.
Yeah. Unfortunately, his hands have not gotten any better. Although he did have one game recently where I gave him kudos on the show. Like, boy, he caught a few balls in traffic I wasn't expecting. But when you have to make a note of that because it's such a rare exception, to me, that's a very bad sign. The rebounding's been bad. The foul trouble has still been kind of a thing most nights that he's going to play. So he's not getting much better at the things he's got to get better at.
Yep.
The outliers aside, so, the game winning or saving performance against the Wizards, for example, just been a whole lot of not good enough. And Andre has firmly been ahead of him and deserves to be.
All right. I think we have 4 left. Okay.
F for Johni Broome.
Yeah. I feel guilty giving out Fs.
Derek gives a D. I gave an F.
I feel guilty giving out Fs. D- you could have talked me into. An F, he's just not.
He is shooting 20% from the field.
Yeah.
As a 6'8", 6'9" forward who doesn't shoot threes.
Yeah, and the 3-point shot in Summer League looked like, that could be intriguing. Yeah. And that has not translated at all.
Nope. Now, again, if we add some context behind it, it's not like his minutes have come in super meaningful spots for the most part. He was really skewed by the Orlando game where they were getting absolutely demolished, and then they just threw him out there like, here you go, Johni. Here's an opportunity to play. And he did not look ready for that opportunity. Yeah. So this is not banishing him to the G League or overseas already, but I do not have a lot of hope based on what we've seen so far.
When you miss 13 of your first 17 shots inside the arc, it's not the most encouraging start for a player who is pretty ground-bound and unathletic. Yeah. We will see. Only 6 games, only a total of 39 minutes. It's not like he's given us much, but I haven't exactly seen much to give me any kind of hope.
Yeah, I haven't enjoyed it. Hasn't been good.
No. Now, I think we send in grades for Hunter Salas. I don't necessarily know.
He's another. I gave an F just because it's like, I think he hasn't played anywhere near enough to even see anything. Now, he's shooting 60% from the field in his
there you go. On
4 minutes a game in 6 games. I kind of wish that they would take a flyer on a wing in that spot based on the guard depth. So it's less about him than it is, I think, the roster allocation and frankly how good their other two-way spots.
I do like that Bree included my shrug emoji.
Great graphic work there by Bree. So I feel bad about that one because it's not really anything he's done. Yeah. It's just, whatever.
He's a two-way player. It doesn't look like it's, you might need to cycle through.
And so who do we have left? We have the 2 old men.
2 old men, yes.
So why?
Why is he on the roster?
I gave a D for don't care because he's done nothing. Now, here's the problem with Gordon and Lowry. They both, in very limited reps, have shot the shit out of the ball. Gordon is shooting 62.5% from 3. And if you look at the lineup splits, it's like, oh my God, they're winning his minutes by like a mil. Well, Gordon, not as much as Lowry, but he's done what they need him to do. I just, don't want to see him on the floor. So that's why I gave him a D. That's all I got.
No, I mean, look, he can still shoot. And honestly, like going to the arena and watching him go through his shooting routine, it's wild how like those 30-footers are just layups for him. But like he can't hang anymore. And like, I don't even blame him at all. Like, it's not at all. But my bitterness comes from the fact they're occupying roster spots, especially on a roster where you're not going to use a 15 spot because your owner's too cheap to pay the luxury tax. Yeah. So, like, those last 2 spots being basically player coaches is really going to send me up a wall.
All
so
right,
I'm
how
guessing
about-
we're not any
how
more
about
favorable
Coach
to
Lowry?
Coach Lowry. Again,
The
why?
same thing.
Yeah.
Don't want to see him deep or don't put him on the floor. Now, this is not a joke. What do you think Kyle Lowry, this is basketball reference, I'll have to check the normal one. What do you think Kyle Lowry's offensive rating is?
Oh, God.
124. 130.8. Defensive rating 109.6 with him on the floor. He is a plus 21.2 per 100 possessions.
I always said,
and I still would never want to see him on the floor again if
in
it was
a
up to
meaningful
me.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I can't speak to how much or how little he's actually adding in the huddle and all the other stuff, right? Like all the guys will always sing his praises as a leader and all that. I would love for him to be a leader holding the clipboard as an actual coach, and they would use that roster spot on someone who is more of a need filler. So again, this is not really about him as much as management and roster.
You can be a leader while wearing a polo. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But look, I think he's a character, and I enjoy him being around. I just think in a different role.
It really comes down to, it's not about them. It's about the fact they use the last two roster spots and you're already burning one. Stay under, or at least give yourself a chance to get under the luxury tax. So it is, I mean, look, you're running Tyrese in the ground, you're running VJ in the ground, you're running Grimes in the ground. Like, it would be great to have a little bit more depth, especially since Daryl has shown a real affinity to use those minimum salary rosters for players who can actually contribute in a pinch.
Yeah. So D and Y for Gordon and Lowry from Derek and I. And that finishes out all our grades.
It does.
And I think we revised on the fly, so I don't have to say, hey, Derek, who would you want to revise if you had a second chance?
We revised
just did
on
that
the fly.
As we went.
Bump Morey up a little bit based on what he did last summer. I think there was one other change I made, but it doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah,
anyway.
Justin Edwards, I need to strike him from the record entirely. It's kind of how his season has gone. But yeah, I think that's about it for today.
Sounds good. Well, it was great to kick off this week with you, Kyle. Enjoy your well-earned vacation.
Oh yeah, as we go into roll call here to close out the show. I'm sure I'll say goodbye to a few of our friends here. But yeah, I will not. This is the last show I will be on until I think it's after Christmas, based on how the schedule will fall and how my vacation is going to go. So I won't see some of you wonderful people in the weeks ahead. Time that just perfectly with this NBA Cup break. Big pat on the back for me. So I want you guys to continue supporting the show, obviously. Derek and Bree and Devon and Rich, who do such a great job every day. The best way to do that right now is to hit the thumbs up button on this video as you leave to say, boy, that was a fun time grading Sixers players and chatting about it with Kyle, Derek, Bree, and all of our friends in the chat. Hit the thumbs up button, helps us a great deal, helps the channel, helps each of us individually. Maybe it'll help you somehow. I don't know. Maybe it'll just make you feel like you did an act of service for somebody. So we love that. We also love the roll call to say, for me, it's to say goodbye, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff.
Hopefully see you later.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know if I come back from vacation or not. On the way out, I just want to say goodbye to a few of our friends today. Like Kyle Wright, like Ice 1212, Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom? What's up to Jess? What's up to my girl Nona? What's up to Hedva? Music Lover 33 this time and not 31. That's really throwing me for a loop. I don't know what happened.
So do you think he changed it, or is that a new person? That's got to be a change, right?
I think it's a change, but
yeah.
Music Lover 33. If you're impersonating the 31, you're gonna have some splaining to do, buddy. Super Alex Tut, Nate, Puppas checking in from overseas, who says first live show in a bit, been busy or on off hours, obviously. So thank you for stopping through today. Thank you to Joaquin from Cherry Hill. Thank you to the Court Jester. Thank you to Furious Kurt stopping through. Hopefully you're happy, Kurt, by the time I come back and the Sixers stack up a few wins. You better love somebody. Thank you to McHale. Thank you to Lee Nguyen. Thank you to Nick Aub, DPO, C. David, Eugene Ross, Yams, Win Forever. Thank you to everybody who was here today. Thank you to even, of course, Vitor. Thank you. I see you at the end here. Thank you to everyone for being here today and always. Look forward to seeing you guys and talking about my trip once I'm back. Until then, I need you to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And until next time, stay safe, take care of one another. Goodbye.
We all city like the mayor.